Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I am Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are back to talk about the TV show Silo. We will be talking about episodes 3 and 4. We're doing this, as Tom likes to call, a twofer. He's never used that term, but hopefully by the end of this episode, he will have used it 3 times, and I will get the $5 that I bet him prior to us recording. I feel like the world is being sussed out a bit more, and I have more questions, Tom, and I'm coming to you as the guy with answers. But let's start with episode 3. This one was called Machines. The focus here was the generators going down, so Juliette's got to work on it. Judicial, there's this push for someone else to be sheriff other than Holston's pick, which is Juliette. And then the conclusion of this as to whether or not Juliette takes the job. This was very mechanically centered, and you're a guy that loves to, you're always out there cranking on your machine, turning a wrench, turning a screwdriver, turning the pliers. Was this episode just your favorite episode because all of the jumpsuits and grease and everything?
I feel like you are more of the handyman than I am. I know how to turn a wrench. That's about it. So I bet you got a little more out of it. I think you have limited knowledge as well in engines and turbines. So I'm interested to hear your knowledge and see how accurate the scene was. But I really liked this episode. I thought it was super intense. All the actual fixing of the generator definitely had me on the edge of my seat. And I like where they're moving the plot, adding in some new characters and getting a little bit more in the weeds and asking more questions. It's been fun.
Right. I didn't know where this show was eventually going to go, but Tom and I love to try and solve a murder, and this show is full of murder. So
We got two.
we've got some machines, we've got some murder, and we spend a lot of time in mechanical for this one. Tom, I set all of that up just so you could mention that I am handy with tools. So I'm glad that me fishing for a compliment landed a big old fishing trout. Not a fisherman either. So we're going to find out a lot about us. But we will hit the major scenes, and we're starting this episode where we left Juliette, which is climbing a rope. Tom, the most important question I'm going to ask you, forgive me, I'm not going to answer it. How hard is rope climbing? When you were in gym class, or maybe you've done it as an adult, how did you feel about climbing a rope?
I mean, I feel like the ropes I climbed back in gym class had knots on them, making it marketably easier than having to just use your legs on a single rope. And she was, I don't know, conservatively 100 feet off the ground there.
So far. So tiring. All arms,
Yeah.
just up and down.
But I mean, she is Juliette of mechanical and keeps this whole silo, at bay. So it doesn't surprise that she has the muscle to be able to pull herself all the way up.
She is kind of developing into a superhero, right? She's a great character, just from a strength level, the competency, her working in mechanical, all of this stuff. Her becoming sheriff. I gotta be honest. I think I'm falling harder and harder for one Sheriff Nichols. I enjoyed Holston for his short tour, but really looking forward to Sheriff Nichols, I've got to say. But rope climbing is hard. We're on the rope. We're struggling with the loss of George. And then we have this long scene where we discover that this silo still has booze, still has a good quantity of it based on brandy that's given out and whatever moonshine that has been distilled in mechanical. And she looks like she's having a great time just getting hammered.
Yeah, you got to have your priorities. I feel like one of the first things they probably did was set up a distillery. But we find out very quickly that she is not a good drinker, which doesn't surprise the way she climbed that rope. I mean, she clearly does not have drinker's knees like you and I.
No, she does not have drinker's knees, and she doesn't seem to have any issue going from mechanical to the top and walking up those stairs. So I'm with you. No sign of drinker's knees at all. We have the mayor and Marnes. Speaking of drinker's knees, something tells me Marnes has drinker's knees. And to be perfectly honest, I think I would hurt more on the downhill of this. Like, it's tiring to go up, but the pounding your drinker's knees take on the way down, This was a struggle for me to watch as the mayor and Marnes go to meet Juliette down in Mechanical.
Yeah, and I feel like there's enough mechanical gizmos and computers and other stuff going on that it surprises they don't have an elevator, right? Like some sort of pulley system to be able to get people up and down.
That's fair. There's probably an episode where a guy in one of those funny round hats comes to the silo as a traveling salesman, and he's like, you know what you folks need? An elevator. What's that? An elevator. And then he does a whole song and dance about it, and in the end they toss him off the top balcony because he's a con man. But
so maybe that's what broke the generator.
Yes, the con man being thrown from the top for trying to sell them elevators. They're stair people, Tom, and they will not be disgraced with elevators.
I would argue they're stairmasters.
Oh, look at that. Good work.
We do get a very weird line, though, when Mayor and Marnes are kind of like walking down. And I feel like I should just call it out because I felt like it goes out of place and kind of gives us maybe a hint towards the mayor eventually kind of getting poisoned and the fact that's probably from her water. Where Marnes says, like, unless you dumped your water to lighten your load, you've got a leak. So again, just a kind of an odd line saying I guess she didn't fill her water all the way to the top or her water got replaced by somebody. I still, like, watching this episode for the second time, knowing that she got poisoned, I kind of was on the lookout the entire episode and couldn't really pinpoint when this happened, but I wanted to call out that interesting line.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Marnes is the poisoner?
I don't think so. That was my initial thought. I talked to my wife about that, but I don't think he's capable of it, just based on how, like, torn up he is afterwards, and, like, he's torn up when nobody's around. He's not doing it as an act, so I don't think it's him. Well, I do have questions about, like, later on when he questions, because they kind of share water from, like, one backpack to another, which I think is a brilliant idea if you're hiking with somebody. Put your water in their backpack and vice versa. But he makes a mention that he thinks they were trying to poison him and not her, which I think is fair because we find out he has enemies, but I don't know. I don't know where to take that yet.
Two things. One, I found the drinking the other person's bottle from their backpack weird. Wouldn't you put your bottle in the other person's backpack and then drink your bottle? Yeah, that's what they did. Is it?
That's what
okay.
They did. Yeah.
I was confused because he made it sound like, oh, you drink the other person's bottle because it's easier than grabbing your own. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I mean, germs and all. And then the other question I have for you is, you talked about whether or not Marnes was a murderer and you spoke with your wife about it. Tom, have you ever given consideration that your wife is in on it with Marnes and she was part of this poisoning?
Listen, my wife has watched a lot of murder mystery shows and, like,
and she's killed before.
ID.
Not to reveal too much, but she has killed before. Allegedly, right?
Allegedly, yes. That hasn't been convicted yet. So, yeah, nothing would surprise.
That's, yes. I hesitate to even speak on Mike about it because I know that she is quick to kill.
Listen, the other thing I want to mention too is, like, watching this for the second time, I realized, okay, there's got to be spies throughout. Like the fact that Bernard here kind of knows things before anybody else and probably should know things because it has been told. So I kind of kept my eye open for, like, characters in the background or people that might be spies in the show. So again, my wife, probably one of the spies.
Okay, good. Now that I've got your suspicion up, if tomorrow you're poisoned, we'll know who to go after. Or to throw suspicion, she'll let you live a long, happy life. Just to, we'll know in 60 years. Stay tuned, people.
It's a long con.
All right. The turbine is out of balance. The turbine is the thing that spins. If it's not balanced, it'll grind and things will break. And this is what runs the generator. We get a little bit of mechanical science in this episode where they're like, the steam comes up, the steam turns the turbine, that generates the power. Great. Thank you for explaining it to a show. I do like they're like, we don't know where the steam comes from. We just gladly use it. I'm sure there are some mechanical engineers out in the world that watched this episode and just were screaming at the television the whole time. They're like, that's not what a safety relief valve does. You've got to do this. Anyways, I'm sure they lost their minds. I'm not a mechanical engineer, Tom, but I did find all of this rotating equipment talk fun. We have Coop getting punched in the mouth by Juliette in what felt extremely violent and out of hand for someone who's eventually going to take up the badge.
Yeah, because Cooper is her shadow, and we established that kind of shadow relationship of, I guess it's more like a mentorship, but they call it a shadowing. So I don't know, maybe she's just still hungover, but she cold cocks him.
Yeah, it was unnecessary. I felt for Coop. I felt for his nose and face. And this is where she's brought up to super handsome, yoked, mechanical leader guy. And we find out that she is his backup, I guess.
Yeah. So she's
What's his name?
second in command, I guess. Oh, I don't know. I like super handsome, jacked up leader guy.
Yeah. Okay, that's what we'll call him. Bernard, we have a visit with him. And you mentioned something earlier about Bernard and his spies. He's the little finger of the silo with his little birds. And he runs IT, and we find out that IT runs voting machines, which, Tom, I know you've got a lot of things to say about voting machines and their reliability. So you often voice these complaints to me, and this is your platform to do it, Tom. Go ahead, whatever you'd like to say. Actually, don't, because they'll sue you. I do know. I've read enough of the news, so don't do that. But we find out that Juliette and Bernard have a history, and he does not like her for one specific incident.
Yeah, it calls her a thief for stealing heat tapes to prevent their servers from cooking. And like my very first inclination when I heard this, and when we get it, like I think later from Juliette directly saying like she didn't steal these things. She is trying to keep the silo alive, so she probably took them for a specific purpose. And we do find out that that was true. So she's not sure she took them, but the way that Bernard is kind of calling her a thief, I think, is a little bit sketch. But he definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it would have been great had they cut to her and she was in clothes made out of tape, like she had done her own duct tape, like shirt and pants. And she's like, no, I did not steal that tape. If this show was a comedy, that's where the gold is, folks. You can write me for more joke ideas at not going to say our email because I'm too busy. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that Bernard definitely seems to be scheming and plotting. Like you mentioned, he seems to be like he's not the big bad, if you will, of the series as it's been presented is this judge of judicial. So it kind of makes it seem like she is the one kind of pulling all the strings from that side. But I feel like Bernard, like your point about Littlefinger, I think that's very astute because I think that's kind of how this character is. He's probably playing multiple games.
See, I disagree with you on who the big bad is. The big bad is clearly the rebellion, the people that tried to open the hatch years in the before time, and the heroes are the founders that gave us all of our rules, Tom. And if we'd all just stay in line and follow the rules, we'd live long, happy, fulfilled lives. So I disagree with you. I think judicial are heroes. I do think the show is painting Bernard out to be, I don't know. Tim Robbins is playing him so smarmy that you kind of want him to be bad. But I do think that Bernard, for all of his like unlikability, I don't think in the end he's going to be truly like a bad guy.
You think he's doing it for the greater good?
I think he is doing it for the greater good. And I do think that, you know, he sees some purpose in the rules and keeping everyone in line. And like it's not out of, I don't know. He's not doing it out of some weird selfish motivation or like power trip. You could argue that him becoming pro temp mayor, like maybe he had a hand in it, but I don't feel like he is taking that role on with any level of like glee, or this is not necessarily what he wants. He's pretty matter of fact. In fact, Bernard might be a robot now that I've talked it through. He runs IT, Tom, and everyone knows IT is short for computers. And computers are also machines. So what do you think of that? Is Bernard a robot? Tom, confirm or deny? Yes or no? Right now, you have to say one or the other.
I'll confirm, but I guess he runs on brandy.
He runs on brandy. Most machines do. Fancy brandy. A well-known alcoholic lubricant. All right. So we go from there. We have the mayor and Marnes meeting with Dr. Nichols. I'm assuming she didn't change her last name. So this is Dr. Nichols. This actor, you recognized immediately, Tom.
Oh, yeah, 100%. This is Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones. Like you just mentioned, Littlefinger. So here we actually do get a character from the Game of Thrones verse. And it was fun to see him back on screen. I haven't seen him for a while.
When I first saw him, I was like, I know that guy. And as someone who spent too much time watching BBC shows, I was like, is he in a Miss Marple? Is he in this? I actually do think he starred in a BBC show that I watched. I can't remember the name. But then eventually I was like, oh no, he's Game of Thrones Jorah Mormont, the hero of the show, probably. I don't remember how that show ended.
He was the friend zone guy. He just kept constantly getting
right.
friend zoned by Khaleesi.
Right. And then he married the dragon. I remember it all.
Ian Glenn, I believe is the man's name.
That is exactly his name. No one tell us if we're wrong. And we have this moment where talking with Dr. Nichols, we get some backstory on Juliette and her childhood.
Yeah, and he kind of mentions the idea that she left when she was 13 because she needed to like have that feeling of fixing something. So he kind of like let her go. So there's definitely a lot more that I feel we're going to get from that relationship. But this is my first note where I kind of realized that, okay, maybe there's some spying stuff going on. Because when they first arrive in the room, they kind of ask for privacy. And the nurse, as like assistant that's in there, she walks out of the door. And you still kind of see her framed in some of these shots, and you can see her like looking in to the room, kind of like literally spying in. So I feel like this might be a spy for either Judicial or I don't know who else. Maybe it is for Bernard in the medical wing.
Okay, I did not notice that. I did know there were a bunch of babies. I thought maybe the babies were spies because everyone knows babies are suspicious. And if you look at their little faces, they're always trying to figure out what's going on. So they make ideal spies because they collect all the data. And then in 6 years, when they learn to talk, they share all those secrets. So
Fact.
The thing that the mayor says after this scene is she's like, more questions than answers. And her and Marnes like stare deeply into one another's eyes. I think something's going on between Marnes and the mayor. I'm interested to see how that all works out for them from a romantic standpoint. But we have Judicial Sims, who is played by our man Common, delivering some lovely strawberry tart to the mayor in this weird like garden restaurant. And it's funny to me that like strawberries are a luxury. Maybe it shouldn't be funny to me, but it is. He's like, listen, one taste of these. He's really selling these strawberries. I was like, oh, this guy just opened a strawberry farm and he's trying to get investors. I don't know what's happening here, but she, I thought it was a nice gesture. She sees it as like bribing, but I was like, guy's just trying to offer some strawberries. What's wrong with that? I would love if Common showed up to where I was at and was like, hey, here's a plate of delicious strawberries, Julian. Would you like to try them? And I would say, yes, Mr. Common. I would love some strawberries. Oh, these are delicious. Did you grow these? And he'd say, yes, I have a farm. And for a small amount of money, you can be an investor in said farm. And I would say, yes, Mr. Common, I would love to invest in your farm. Also, I would like to invest in your acting career. And here are some telephone pay-for cards that I would like you to buy from me. And then together, Common and I would be business partners. That's how I would like it to go.
Wow, all that from one strawberry tart. But I love Common here because like we only really got the bit of him kind of like menacing figure. I think this is the first time we hear him talk, if I'm not mistaken. But he's just he plays this so well because you think he's just a one-note character, but like we see him later as a loving father with his son in bed, and like the way he very eloquently kind of tells her like, hey, this is just a gesture of good faith, we just want to do whatever. Like it was really great. But I do feel like this was, again, my mind is racing about, okay, how did she get poisoned? Is Judicial trying to poison her? But I think the show makes a specific mention of like he then tries to give it to Marnes, who also declines. But then as he's walking away, he like takes a strawberry and eats it. So I thought that was kind of important to kind of show us that maybe it's not Judicial trying to poison one of these characters.
Listen, as an investor in his farm, we would never give people poisonous strawberries, Tom. That is just not what the Common and Julian strawberry farms are about. That's our brand name. So
okay.
It's a working title. I didn't actually, that's a good point. I didn't even think, because I'm dumb, that, oh, maybe this was an attempt at poisoning. But you do make a good point, and the show is smart in the fact that if that was a misdirect, they at least show him eat the strawberry. I find the relationship between him and Marnes one that I'm interested in like fleshing out in terms of like, because they obviously know each other from back in the day. There's like a history there, and then there's some other communication going on behind the scenes that Marnes is not completely open about. So I'm interested to see that relationship. And you make a great point. Common's character is being fleshed out and more complex, and so it's I'm interested to see where he goes and whether or not that will be I mean, Will Patton's a guest star and Common's a cast member, so I don't know how that works on the byline of a TV show, but I don't know how long Marnes is going to be with us.
Yeah, that's the assumption, right? If you're going to say constantly he's guest starring, it's like the first credit when all the episodes end, I would imagine he's probably not long for the silo.
Right. Although I know an extremely popular podcast where there's a guest on it, and that guest is on every episode and has been. And despite the host's nice letters of cease and desist, that guest keeps showing up, and it's almost like he's trying to be a co-host. So I don't know. It's the entertainment business is weird, Tom.
It's fickle. You try to serve me money at a time, but I'm not having it.
All right. Let's go back to mechanical. The turbine's off balance. Juliette uses her special powers to sense what's happening in the machine. There are a couple of times during this show I was like, really, show? I don't know. Come on. But she's touching which vibration analysis of rotating equipment is a thing, but it's not typically done by hand. But then you hear stories about guys that were like, oh, my grandpa used to be able to put a wooden-handled screwdriver to the valves of a car and tell you what bearing was off. So who knows? Maybe this is a thing that mechanical people can do. I don't know. Is she magical? That's my question to you, Tom.
I don't know. Maybe she's Neo, man. She can talk to machines.
Was that Neo's power? He could talk to machines?
I don't know.
I thought his powers was he could dodge bullets and then shoot bullets from guns. Although that's not really a super.
No, I'm pretty sure he had finger bullets.
Okay. All right. Tom and I will be doing a rewatch of all the Matrix movies here shortly, because apparently this show does give you, we've talked about this, Matrix vibes, like just the stark, mechanical, cold world they live in is very much like Zion. In fact, I'm just rehashing an opinion you had from last podcast. So will you excuse me, please? The mayor witnesses Juliette like in her element, and the mayor's like, we've got to watch this. Like, look at how she handles these machines, which we don't even get to watch because Juliette's like, hey, give me the wrench. I told you this was going to happen, handsome buff dude. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to close you inside this heated chamber. Good luck. I was like, this OSHA would be upset with everything that's happening here.
Yeah, no ear protection. I mean, maybe that's where she gets her tan. I mean, it's just a big tanning bed in there. It's all orange.
She looks fabulous. She looks fabulous.
But so then the mayor kind of exits here, and she goes to visit Martha, who we've, given the lovely name of Toaster Lady. So the kind of like person that, like the hermit that just kind of stays in there and is just constantly fixing stuff. And this was interesting because I think we get a little bit of backstory on the mayor. Like the mayor and Martha, I guess, were old friends. And Martha does make mention of them, the people that live up high, being called the up-toppers and not the tip-toppers, which I thought was kind of funny. Because I think tip-toppers is probably a better name, but, here we are.
Let's call them the tip-toppers, Tom. Up at the tippy-top, the tip-toppers.
But I had to ask here, did you recognize Martha? I know we're a couple episodes in, but did you know what else this actress is portrayed?
Her voice is very familiar. And so I know she's in something that I should know. My answer is I thought her character's name was Ruth, so I can guarantee I don't know what the actress's real name is. So, No, Tom, reveal to me. Who is this?
This is a character that played a mother on a show that we podcasted for 3 seasons. Rebecca Welton's mother from Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's so funny.
Right? Yeah, it took me a second to put that together, but like watching this episode, I'm like, I have to look this up. And yep, sure enough, she was from Ted Lasso.
That's why she recommends not a psychopath, a psychic to the mayor. A psychopath would be a weird recommendation. Hey, you need therapy, go talk to my psychopath. I don't think that's how that works. Tom, good catch. That's brilliant. I'm an idiot. I feel real dumb, to be honest. So, thank you. We just finished that show, and she was in several episodes of season 3.
She wasn't a huge character. It's an understandable miss. But again, ultimately, the mayor here is asking Juliette about asking about Juliette, because there's kind of like almost a mother-daughter relationship with Martha and Juliette here. So this is, I think, what ultimately puts the mayor over the top and says, okay, like, I'm going to agree and give Juliette this job if she wants it.
Right. So the next scene, after she's gotten done doing whatever quick fix it is, the mayor informs Juliette that she was Holston's pick. She very quickly declines, doesn't even ask about salary or benefits. It's just like, no, thank you. Which I got to think, in this world, maybe there aren't salary and benefits. Is this, Tom? Is this a commune? Tom? Did you trick me into watching a show about communists? Tom, you tell me right now. Is this a silo full of communists? Tom?
Yes, Tom? It is, my friend. They have a recycling program.
Oh, everyone knows recycling's a myth. Everyone. I cannot believe you've tricked me into this once again. Oh, how disappointing. All right, now I'm on the side of the revolutionaries. Open that hatch. Let the communists, let the poison in. I don't know.
Is the poison capitalism in this?
Yes, let it in. Let it in so everyone can triumph, Tom.
I do like how Juliette gives the line about, like, everybody thinks their job is the most important, but mine actually is, which is great because we have established that she is the one keeping the silo running. So I like that concept and idea.
Right. Yes, the arrogance of mine actually is a great line delivered. But Juliette, I mean, cooking with gas. She's doing a wonderful job. And Rebecca Ferguson, huge fan. Once again, watching this and simultaneously watching the Mission Impossible movies, she's just underutilized if she's not in every other movie. But all right, she gets the badge from the mayor, and I love that. I love that it takes the other deputy to be like, something's scratched in here. When they show you it, it's clearly scratched. It's like, it's not a secret what it says. It says truth. Like, what's going on here? How did no one else notice?
She doesn't turn the badge. Like, if you watch the scene again, she's just looking at the front of it. She never actually, like, gives it much thought or look. But ultimately, we figure out that this is, like, the quote-unquote signal that Holston is giving her by saying truth. And I'll kind of put my kind of tinfoil hat on here. I think it is kind of interesting that it's spelled with, like, upper and lowercase, where the T is uppercase, the RU is lowercase, and the TH is uppercase. So I'm wondering, and she makes a point to even hold on to the badge later. I'm wondering if there is going to be something to that. Like, why is the RU lowercase and the TH and T uppercase? So probably nothing, but it stood out to me.
Oh, I think it's just Holston reminding her that tobacco's evil and to not smoke.
Oh, the Truth campaign.
You're welcome. If you flip the badge over, it says dare. And then that's the anti-drug campaign. And she's like, truth or dare? This is a game. And it's, nope, you're not supposed to smoke and you're not supposed to do drugs. He was a police officer, Juliette. Get with it. Truth or dare. Truth and dare, I guess it is. Wow, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry, Tom.
That is Holston's middle name. Holston Dare Becker.
But his nickname was Truth, which is confusing. So Rebecca, upon seeing this, runs down and she's like, listen, Mayor Marnes, I want to point out, first off, I love Will Patton. I love everything about Will Patton. The actor's fabulous in this role as Marnes. I don't know if you caught it, and I don't remember exactly what he says, but when she declines to be sheriff, he's like, oh, thank God. Like,
hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yeah, he's like, oh, we walked all the way down there for her to make the right choice. Thank you. So for her to then come back and be like, you know what? I would like the job, but you have to shut down the generator first. And they go into the whole, that's never been done before. It's crazy. One night, it's going to be anarchy. And I don't know. Most of the people in the silo feel like their spirits are pretty dead. So I don't know that you're going to get a huge, like, riot. But I just wanted to point out Marnes's, like, asides or comments are perfect for what Will Patton's doing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
he's a great, like, wingman to her. Not wingman, but, like, yeah, kind of like hype person or whatever for the mayor. I love it.
Listen, I would pay hundreds of dollars for Will Patton to be my wingman and wear a sheriff's outfit and just follow me around and say stuff. I would love it. But this is all leading to the one night of power outage, which felt a lot like if you ever did a lockdown, Tom, in like school, where they, like, I don't know if your soccer team ever did a lockdown, or like our church youth group would do lockdowns. Like, it's just a bunch of people sleeping in common areas. I don't know, playing truth or dare. And by that, I mean not smoking or smoking drugs. Yes, that's right. But
it seems fun. It's just a big silo slumber party.
That's right, the silo slumber party. Everyone is preparing for the outage. We find out that there are gun lockers in this world, which is good. Mm-hmm. Gun safety is important. I'm glad they're all locked up, although one would argue pretty soon we're going to find out gun lockers are only good if you lock them. But
Fair.
There is a mechanical family meeting where they have a lot of steam turbine talk, and everyone gets together and they're like, listen, once again, this is where all the mechanical engineers in the audience were losing their minds.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I feel like there was enough talk here where maybe some of it did make sense. I don't know, but I like the little nod to Inception with the little spinner that they kind of put on screen, and then she kind of takes a little bit off of it and then shows how it kind of wobbles. So I thought that was very helpful for an audience that probably doesn't understand what's going on, because I certainly did not. But I'd like you mentioned it earlier, talking about like the steam coming from below, and they make mention of not knowing where it came from. We do know that there's a massive amount of water below them. So whether they're hit like an aquifer, or is there some other mechanism or machine below them that is creating the steam? I think that is interesting, and I'm assuming we'll find out more.
Volcano.
Volcano, yeah, maybe they're on an active volcano. I do want to call out, because I think it was a cool little extra catch. In the background, there's a sign on the wall. It says like signs for syndrome. So I think they had mentioned it, the idea of people being like depressed or suicidal and like the signs to look for. So if you pause it, you can see on the wall, there's like a syndrome sign that says like, these are the things to be on the lookout for.
Oh, interesting. No, I didn't catch that. Tom, I don't like that you laughed at the idea that they built this on a volcano. Think of it this way. A volcano already has the hole big enough for a silo to go into, and there is also heat at the bottom so that you can heat the steam and use it to power a turbine. All you have to do is make sure it never erupts, but if it does, it just relocates the silo to a different spot, pops it out just like a gun. So a bullet from a gun, I should say. So please don't laugh at my ideas. They are pretty sound in terms of the science, and
you're an innovator, man.
I'm an innovator, yeah, who never took a science class. A lot of religion classes, no science class. So this will probably explain a little bit about why I don't understand why the silo shouldn't be built in a volcano.
So before we get into it, we have obviously the big repair operation.
Get into the volcano, Tom?
Which
the
is
volcano that's perfectly safe and can hold a silo? Is that what you mean by getting into?
No, not quite yet. But we do get the bit of them switching to backup power, and then all the people having the slumber party in the cafeteria. We see that outside image flicker to the lush green environment right before it shuts off.
No.
And I was like,
no.
You didn't catch this?
No, I did not, Tom.
Oh, how did you not?
I was
Taking notes?
I was like, oh, they're switching to backup power. I probably looked at my phone. Are you serious? Is that
Yes.
That's truly what happened?
Yes, it was. They show a handful of the people like after it flickers. It's like for half a second, and then it just goes black. But they kind of focus on like Holston's assistant, I think, which we see, I think, in the next episode when Juliette eventually takes the role and kind of like does not really like Juliette much. But it kind of focuses on her and her just being like, what just happened? What was on the screen? So you know that's going to come back later. And I cannot believe you didn't clock that.
Well, here's the deal. Okay, so there's a lot of chicanery with screens, right? We talked about whether or not the helmets, when you go out to clean, are screens and maybe show you something that's not reality. We have these screens that show us the outside world, and maybe they're not showing us reality, hence why the image flickers. Tom, we're watching this show on a screen, so how do we know the TV show itself is not showing us something that's not true? I mean, I'm looking at our outline on a computer screen. Now I'm wondering if this outline is even real.
We did get an Inception reference in this episode, so who knows, man? Maybe we're a show within a dream within a screen.
All right, well, I've got a hotel you and I can meet at and jump off the balcony in order to get to the next dream level. So,
Okay.
Whew. All right. I'm going to say the repair operation is very tense, very well done. My only criticism of this, Tom, is I really expected someone to die and no one died. I thought maybe Coop was going to get lost. I thought, something... When that turbine blade falls, I thought, let's cut someone in half. Give me a little bit of violence show. But no, this show is just murdering people, but not with turbine blades. So I don't know. I wanted the stakes a little bit higher in terms of to show me how dangerous this world is, but everyone lives. It's like a G.I. Joe episode. No one ever gets hurt.
Yeah, there weren't any red shirts here. I kind of thought the same. They even kind of made mention that, like, I think Juliette makes a line like, I need your best and I need your quickest or whatever right now. So, like, you figured, okay, accidents are going to happen. I was kind of surprised there as well.
Yeah. I think we've already passed it, but I did appreciate there's one scene where there's like an old guy asking for help and he's like, the power went off and I was on the stairs. There's always like one guy that doesn't get the memo about power outages or something going down. And he's like, oh, I was going for my morning jog and I didn't realize there was not going to be any power or light. But
I felt like that was kind of odd and out of place-ish. Like I watching it again a second time, I kept thinking, okay, is this guy causing a diversion for something? Is he the poisoner? Like, I don't know. It was just weird. It didn't seem like the scene was really necessary.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. I clocked it, but only as I'd probably be that guy. I'm like out for a jog, which I don't jog, so that doesn't make any sense. But I'm out for a walk with walking sticks, and they're like, oh, the power's out. Anyways, the important thing about the whole repair operation is that Juliette almost drowns, and she has talked about like this fear of drowning or this fear of like going into water. So I felt like this was like her showing maybe not that she's immune to drowning, but maybe exposing her to being underwater a little bit, albeit in the worst circumstances. She's a lobster in a hot water. Like, this was weird.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like that was boiling water, but I like that take that you assume at some point she's going to have to go down there and try to find this other like hatch or tunnel or whatever that George was looking for. So getting her a little bit, getting her feet wet, if you will, I think is kind of cool.
Yep. A lot of things are like popping and steam coming out of them because of the overpressure. And I thought, guys, while fixing this turbine, did we maybe create a lot more work as we're going to have to, like, I don't know, weld all those valves and, like, close up all those cracks? And this is my biggest fear, Tom, in the world, is anytime I go to fix something, in the back of my mind, I constantly think, in the process of me trying to fix this, am I going to break it further? And so as this was happening, I was like, oh, guys, yeah, we've made more work for ourselves. And so this is why anytime I'm taking something apart, like a pool pump or, I don't know, a chicken breast rotisserie from Costco, I think,
made it worse.
Am I making this worse? And then I eat the skin off the rotisserie chicken and think, no, I cannot make this worse because it's delicious. We have some Mayor and Marne's romance, just lovely, just two old people finding each other, a late in life romance.
Did you see that? Like, I didn't see this coming really at all. I didn't see any kind of like budding relationship with them. They make mention like where they kind of like maybe stare longingly at each other when they were given the initial speech, but like the idea of them opening up shops I think was cute, and I like this relationship.
I saw it coming. I mean, the way these two, the chemistry between these two, I thought immediately we were going to see them tearing each other's clothes off at Freedom Day's ceremony. I was rooting for it. So
Okay.
100% saw this coming. And I did make the comment that it was a late in life romance. It's almost the latest in life romance the mayor could have possibly gotten involved with, because she is not going to be with us in more than a scene. But I want to touch on Juliette being absolutely awesome. She's in a jumpsuit covered in oil. She fixed everything. She's great. She's my hero. I would like Juliette to be sheriff, mayor, and judicial. I would like Juliette to be Judge Dredd, Tom. That's what I discovered during this episode. And we have a quick scene where she meets with Martha before she's going up top, and she gives George's video camera, which they don't know what it is, but they do give in order for her to fix it.
Yeah, and I think we get, again, the very heavy, like, kind of mother vibes here. Well, like, they didn't give, like, a hug, but just the way they kind of said goodbye, I think it was very heartwarming, and I like this relationship.
The mayor and Marnes are about to, we'll just say, be intimate, and the mayor, thinking that is a terrible idea, poisons herself and quickly dies, I believe. That's how I saw this happening. Is that what happened?
I don't think so. So again, what I was trying to do rewatching this was trying to pinpoint the moment like she ultimately did get poisoned, and the assumption is, and I think they're laying it on pretty heavy, that it's from the water bottle. She takes one more swig of her water right outside of IT as like Bernard's asking about the outage, which again, Bernard knowing about the outage already or what happened, or knowing that Juliette's going to be mayor, so he's got the spies. But my assumption is that's when it happened. So maybe when the lights went out, when the power was out, or when they were out there having their like conversation or whatever, that's when somebody swapped the water or something. Or she's being poisoned the whole day. I don't know, but the illness seemed to come on relatively quickly.
Right, and he points out that it was rat poison, so it's a quick-acting poison. He does say, I've seen it before, which is a little bit questionable. He's like, I poisoned the last mayor just like this. I know exactly what this looks like. And everyone's like, what? And Marnes is like, oh, never mind. I'm angry. I loved her.
He's been around a long time. He's seen his fair share of poisons.
He's seen so many poisonings. Marnes the Poisoner, in fact, is his nickname. So it's weird that no one is casting suspicion on him. But I enjoyed this episode. When I thought back on it, I was like, oh, it's a little bit just all about that turbine. But then on the second rewatch, I was like, oh no, they do unpack quite a bit, and they lay the groundwork for a murder mystery, which we love. So I enjoyed the episode thoroughly.
Yep, absolutely, man. I think again, like each episode, like the first two, I think were their own bit to set up both the Holston and Allison storylines, which again sets the rest of our kind of main character or cast of characters for this season. And I like how each episode has been a little bit more unique and different in such a small environment. It's been a fun show.
And Juliette Nichols is my hero. She's just incredible.
In fact, she has my vote.
And we're on to episode 4. Episode 4 is called The Tea Ruth. And Ruth is the woman in the toaster repair shop, right? So this episode is all about...
The mayor's name is Ruth. You're making it even more confusing.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah, her name is Ruth Johns.
So Tea Ruth. So this is the termination of Ruth, Mayor Ruth, because she just died. Is that
Nailed
why this is called Tea Ruth?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Tom, for going with it. Here are the big points of this episode. We get Juliette's background.
Haunted past.
Haunted past, yes. So young Juliette, which I gotta be honest, if I could have fast forward, if I had a remote and I didn't have to get up and go to the TV to hit fast forward, I would have fast forwarded through the Juliette background stuff. I think I got the gist pretty early on. The main theme of her background is that she has discovered fixing things helps her escape from the pain of losing both mother and brother. And then we get her stepping into the office of sheriff and carrying the badge, much like Tom, Ed, and No Country for Old Men, two sheriffs that are going down in the history of the world as the best sheriffs ever. Which I bring that up because Cormac McCarthy just died, and so I started rereading No Country for Old Men again, and that book's incredible. But it relates, Tom, because there's sheriffs in both this show and that book. So please don't edit this out because it's important.
It is.
We have this opening scene where she's playing doctor as a kid, but they like made the brother like really pass out. They're like, listen, you could pretend to be a doctor, but if we hit him over the head with a pan and you get to practice giving him an oxygen and bringing him to, then you'll be a better doctor. Is that what happened here? What's going on in this scene? Why are they letting the kid revive the other kid?
I did not see this scene as a training session for her. I think there's a lot of questions here. like
medical malpractice. If you were a lawyer, this is the scene you'd point to when you were filing medical malpractice against this child. You'd be like, child, are you a doctor? She's like, no. Why are you giving oxygen? Case closed. Millions of dollars towards the plaintiff. Thank you.
But this is where I have a lot of questions because we know that the father, Jorah Mormont here, he is a doctor.
A real doctor.
The one leading kind of the help effort for the son is the mother. So is like the mother a doctor as well? Like the kid has kind of purple lips. We kind of find out later, or certainly insinuated in one of the early episodes, that the brother and the mother potentially committed suicide. So I've got a lot of questions, and I feel like we're going to have to get more of this backstory and understand what happened to her mother or what kind of led to her brother's sickness here.
Yeah, I'm going to go, they hit him with a pan, and they were just playing doctor. So this was a drill, and she didn't pass, and that's why she ended up in mechanical. I don't know. I did not understand. To your point, he probably is sick, but I guess they telegraphed suicide for the mom, and I kind of felt like it was a telegraphed suicide for the little brother too, but now that I think about it, it was maybe the brother unfortunately died from a sickness, and that led to suicide from the mom, right? That's probably
I tend to
likely.
agree now.
Okay. Well, we'll never know. The show will never explain it to us. We're at episode 4, and although it says truth, they're not giving us a lot of truth. So Juliette goes up to the mayor's office, and the mayor is sleeping on the floor, which seemed odd. And Tom, when you sleep, do you pull the blanket over your face? The mayor, when she sleeps, she pulls the blanket over her face. This didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Sometimes. It looks like she just had a Bloody Mary as well, so.
Right. And she's like, oh, I can't swallow this because of all the calories. So she spit it up all over the floor. Oh, man, we shouldn't make light of this old lady's murder, but we are. And
murder.
Hey, we murder all over the place. George is murdered. The mayor's murdered. I love a double. Well, I was gonna say I love a double murder, Tom, but that's probably not something I want to put out into the world. I love it in my TV shows. Thank you, Agatha Christie.
Smart. Good cover.
Yeah, good. They'll never suspect. Anyways. Common is in there with Marnes and Bernard, and give Marnes the Oscar during this scene. He breaks a chair. He talks about wanting blood. He talks about the poisoned water. I mean, if the Golden Globes are... what do they give for television shows? Emmys? A Tony? Give him an Anthony. I don't know what it is. Give him an EGOT. This guy's doing incredible work in the scene. I bet breaking that chair was ad-libbed, Tom. Guaranteed. That chair was made of high tensile aluminum, and he shattered it in his bare hands. That's what kind of actor Will Patton is. The Will Patton.
Wow. Wow, brilliant.
The
I have to
the
ask,
father of Patton Oswalt, the comedian. Did you know that, Tom? That Will
that
Patton
can't be
is the
true.
father of
And Patton Oswalt is his first name. That doesn't make sense.
well, in some cultures. Anyways, I don't have time to explain it to you.
But this is where Marnes makes the connection that he thinks people are trying to murder him. And at first I was kind of like, I don't think that's the case. Like, who wants to take down this, like, I don't know, would-be wannabe sheriff guy as opposed to maybe the mayor? But I think there is something to this with the show is showing us that really nobody seems to really hate the mayor. Like, she doesn't have near the amount of enemies that Marnes does. So I feel like it maybe does make sense if he was the target and maybe they did switch water at some point. I don't know.
Okay, so you buy the theory that the poison was meant for Marnes and inevitably the mayor partook of it. And
I
so
didn't think at first, but they do such a heavy-handed thing about saying how many enemies that Marnes has. I think, like, maybe that is the...
Yeah, Common even has a line. He's like, man, I forgot how many people hate you.
Yeah.
Which, I don't like your phrasing of would-be sheriff. I think Marnes is a good lawman. I don't think you want your silo lawman to be likable. Even Holston says it. He's like, hey, if I'm doing my job, I'm not going to be liked. And look where that got him. Retirement and a golden badge, and he's just living the dream out there in the sunny outer silo, I think is what they call it. Retirement. Is out to pasture.
Yeah.
He's dead. Anyways, I don't think he's dead. I'm officially on record. I don't think he's dead.
Okay.
All right, so we've given Marnes the Oscar because he's an incredible actor, and he deserves all of the accolades. We find out that Bernard is mayor pro temp, which, Tom, that's Latin for he is a pro at being temporary. That's what pro temp means. You're welcome.
I think it's pro tem, not pro temp.
No, pro temp is like Ryan on The Office. He is a temp. So pro temp. Thank you, drink, Office, fans. All right. Who's this guy in the cafeteria, Tom? Tell me now. Give me answers. His name's Lucas. We find out later. Who is Lucas?
Dude, no idea. Like, at first I'm like, okay,
Tom?
is he a spy? Is he George 2.0? I mean, he's clearly staring at the screen, and he seems to be like taking notes almost, maybe making observations. So I don't know. Who do you think this guy is?
So you brought up the flickering of the screen in the last episode.
He's a pretty little squeen. It's so cute.
No. Listen, in the silo, the lingo, they say squeen, okay? It's just something all the cool kids say, so don't edit this out. I am right, and I'm a cool kid, and I will always be. Thank you. I'm wondering if he is now observing the squeen because of the flickering that happened in the last episode.
It's possible, but they didn't like feature him. Like, to feature him enough in this episode and give him lines with Juliette later, I feel like they would have then showed him like rambling with the other people that were in that area.
My other thing is they are setting him up to be a love interest for Juliette, even though I think he's trying too hard. And I have some other questions, but I think we should get into it when they actually have a conversation later in the episode. But this guy's job is apparently just hanging out in that cafeteria, watching that screen. I hate myself, Tom.
You can't go back now.
The self-loathing I feel. Okay. Sandy, the sheriff's assistant, does not like Juliette.
No. Yeah, and again, she was the one that had the focus on the screen. So I don't think I really recognized her much. She was in maybe the first episode, but I'm glad they're bringing her in because I'm assuming she's going to have a greater role.
Yes, but she is a levelist, Tom. There's in this silo, there is something that we all need to fight against, and that's levelism, which is assuming someone is something typically in a negative connotation based on what level they're from. So Sandy is a levelist.
Okay, that's true.
And she is against the down, down, deep because she's a tip, top. So I think it's interesting that they kind of make this into a big deal. Like, oh, you're from up here, we're from down there. I do like Juliette leaning into it. She's like, oh, we mostly eat children. That was a cold-blooded line, and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, didn't giggle, didn't laugh, didn't say it was a joke. I love it. She left it out there too.
Nope. I love the idea of a grab and go 3 levels down. You just go down there, get yourself a silo sandwich. Sounds great. She does ask about files. She's like, what's in that locker? Are there files? And Sandy, I appreciate the no nonsense of Sandy, where she's like, you're asking about files. Why? Who? And this is where she brings up George Wilkins. And so this will obviously be Juliette's main reason for taking the badge, right? Is to try and find, because she feels like this will lead to what happened to George, right?
Yeah, that is her mission. I don't think she cares really anything about other parts of the silo.
No, she's going to be a cool sheriff that just lets things slide, and then she's just finding out what happened to George. All the other rules, I do think it's weird that there's not an entrance exam for the sheriff, but we can get into policing later, I guess. Okay. A topic that's easily discussed without emotions going one way or the other. So we then have a flashback, and Tom, I'm tempted just to give you all the flashbacks, because once again, I feel like we spent a lot of time with the flashbacks, and I needed less of the time with the flashbacks. But Juliette as a child, we discover that she goes down to recycling because with her family members gone, everything in the silo gets recycled. And so she has to be the one to deliver her brother and mother's stuff to recycling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she makes a point of like keeping the brother's like little toy horse, which is like, I guess her way to be able to kind of keep her brother close or in memory. But yeah, the dad, like, again, I like the idea of doing the backstory and understanding like why she came down here. And like I said earlier, with like the mom and the brother and the way they passed, like I feel like the show is going to keep coming back here to be able to help establish why Juliette is the way she is today, and like why she's going so hard to kind of figure out and find the truth. So I'm with you. Like, these scenes weren't necessarily my favorite, but I think they're going to fill in the gaps and make her arc as sheriff probably more enjoyable.
Sure. They really, the Irishman Jorah Mormont, which I thought is always fun when they try to make old people look young.
Oh, yeah.
It never quite works, but Robert De Niro kicking that guy to death in The Irishman is kind of the pinnacle of... anyways, guy's 70 years old. I didn't really understand. So is the idea here that Dr. Dad didn't care enough? Like he made her take the stuff to recycling instead of doing it himself? I mean,
I don't think it's that. I think it's more, we're going to get more backstory about, because Juliette clearly blames him for this. And if
blames him for what? For their deaths?
Yes. So that's why I feel like we're going to get
Dr. Dad
more.
murdered the brother and mother.
No.
Tom? Yes or no? You already said no, so that doesn't. Dang it. It's got more weight if they're. Never mind. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I think something had to have happened, because if it was, if her brother died of an illness and the mom takes her life, like, I don't know how you can blame the dad for that. But Juliette clearly does here as a kid, and what ultimately pushes her to completely leave and abandon her father and go down to mechanical. So again, I think we're going to get more backstory and figure out why Juliette feels this way about her father.
Okay, so you don't think Dr. Dad is a murderer. You just think she blames him for the deaths, or at least contributing in some way, and that causes her to not want to be around him.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe as like a doctor, he was experimenting on his kid or something. Like, I don't know.
Wow.
Who knows?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
You've said some things here that are now recorded, so we'll be able to come back to them. But if your track record holds true, you're probably right about all of it. And that's what I don't like about you, Tom, is the fact that you're typically right about these things.
I throw enough stuff on the wall, and some will stick.
Some will stick. Speaking of things that will stick, Bernard shows up with one witness, and he swears her in.
Mm-hmm. And he's kind of trying to bury the hatchet here. Like, he confronts her about the whole stealing thing, and she says she reappropriated it, which I thought was fantastic. But through this scene, we hear like the clacking of that little like washer in the vent, which we don't know yet until the end. But I'd like that it's even mentioned, like, hey, you want to fix that? And then Bernard makes a point about not making enemies out of maintenance, which I don't think we've met anybody from maintenance yet, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So maybe we are going to get some maintenance, they're going to be another faction in the show.
I guess maintenance is different than mechanical. We have mechanical, maintenance, IT, judicial, and strawberry farmers, which...
Yeah.
If you're a fan of strawberries, come down to Common and Julian's farm. We've got the freshest strawberries around, and we'll beat any other strawberry dealer's prices by some amount of money, probably a percentage or a bushel. A baker's dozen, we'll say. Julian Common's farm, always fresh strawberries. That's our ad, Tom. You can chalk that one up. You don't have to. You don't have to sell us Anchor anymore. Just sell us strawberries. All right. She gets the combo to the file cabinet and gun cabinet, which is great. Always good. She rifles through there, and Sandy comes in, I think, at this point and mentions that Judicial doesn't have a Wilkins file. So this is the clue that it's out there somewhere in the world, right?
Well, I think more so that Judicial knows that she's poking around, I think is probably maybe the bigger bit here. So I'm assuming she wanted to probably keep this a little bit more hush-hush. The fact that now Sandy said we specifically asked Judicial, they're probably going to be a little bit more, I don't know, aggressive with their tactics.
So you think inevitably by her asking Sandy to look into it and Sandy asking Judicial now knows that Juliette is in on whatever suspicious thing happened to George. So she should have just kept this to herself and not asked Sandy. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, especially as like Sandy being like, your word, they're levelists and they're not really on the great terms. It seems odd that she would position this.
She's a hateful levelist, Tom.
Because
hateful levelist.
She goes to like one of the other recyclers and says like, hey, did you get any of Holston stuff?
Yeah.
And then says like, hey, don't tell anybody about it, just bring it right to me. So like she's trying to keep it hidden, but I'm sure this is going to probably bite her that Judicial now knows.
Tom, explain to me the note doubling the flowers. Why are we doubling the flowers? Why are the flowers important?
Yeah, I feel like this is just another clue that's going to make sense later, but I mean, I've tried to make sense of this and I don't think they've really done anything quite yet. So I'm assuming we got her to like the papers and stuff at the end, but I don't think the hard drive was maybe in there. So maybe the flowers has something to point her to the hard drive or some other clue. I'm not sure, but I mean, we're going to get more of it. We have to.
Man, Holston, he's like a master gamesmith, just putting all this stuff together. And when we meet him later, he's going to be like, oh, I just really like flowers. So
yeah, please.
We have Marnes gently interrogating someone.
Yeah, he has different rules for punching than Mechanical does.
Yeah, no one really chastises. And maybe this speaks to Marnes' reputation, and why people hate him, because he's willing to go down and just throw fists. But he's not going to spend a day doing trash in Mechanical for his transgressions. He's just punching dudes. And Juliette comes down and stops him. They have a conversation. These ice cubes weren't real, Tom. First off, no ice cubes come out of trays that easily. Those ice cubes were gigantic and they weren't real. Ice cubes are not that hard to make. Some people have machines in their house that make them for free. But she explains talking to Holston about George Wilkins' murder, and then him saying that he'll send her a sign. And then she says the next time she saw him, he was going out for the cleaning. So you and I kind of talked about this. My thought was that they would establish a relationship and have more conversations. But we literally see their first conversations and their last conversations. So it is, I mean, from a show perspective, it's kind of fun to be like, okay, she is like absolutely in the dark and she has to retrace his steps in order to figure out what he discovered before he went to clean.
This is interesting too, because we're just talking about Juliette, confiding in Sandy about the George Wilkins file, and now she's kind of laying it all here on the table to Marnes. And I'm interested to see your thoughts. Like, do you think this is smart to put her trust in him at this point? I think she's just looking for an ally, and she's didn't find it with Sandy, and maybe she's trying to get it with Marnes here.
No, it's a good point, and I did have the thought, like, she is sharing all this stuff with a lot of people she doesn't know. And so Marnes, listen, the guy's an EGOT winner. So he may have murdered the mayor, and then he's just such a good actor, singer, theater guy, and I think a Nobel Peace Prize. He probably discovered dynamite. I don't know what an EGOT stands for, but he's so good at what he does that he is pretending to be broken up. I don't know. Sharing things with, I think ultimately Marnes is a good guy, but I do think her confiding in him so quickly is a leap of faith that I don't know that I would have taken. In the same way you brought up, like, maybe she shouldn't share all these things with Sandy. I don't know.
Yeah, she's so like gung ho and trying to find the truth. She's not really taking her time. And again, I'm sure some of the stuff will bite her in the end. But the idea of them both kind of helping each other solve their respective murders that they're passionate about, I think is pretty cool.
Right. She's like, let's partner up to find out who killed your beloved mayor and who killed my acquaintance, George. And she looks at him and stares deadpan at him. And he's like, why'd you say that so strangely? Your acquaintance, George. Why do you? And she's like, I don't know. We were never romantic. And he's like, good, because then I would have to punch you in a hallway because I'm Marnes the puncher. No,
Slash the poisoner.
Slash the poisoner. Oh, dang it. He's got so many nicknames, all of them violent. I'm not going to tell you, but Marnes the Wrencher is another one. I won't get into details into what that means, Tom. So they then go down and we meet Patrick Kennedy. And Patrick Kennedy is apparently someone who hates Marnes. And this is because Marnes did something that caused his wife to be, I don't know, executed or killed, or I don't think she's cleaned. But did you recognize this actor that played Patrick Kennedy?
He seemed familiar, but I didn't look it up. Who is this?
I believe he's a guy on Band of Brothers. He's one of the main dudes on Band of Brothers. And so part of me is like, okay, this guy, I don't think they pull an actor in like that just to do a bit part. So my thought would be this is going to lead to something else. But what was the beef about between his dead wife and Marnes?
I think we don't even really get it here. I think Sims and Marnes talk about it a little bit later. I think it's just some kind of dust up with judicial and relics. So again, it is, to your point, like seems weird, and they got way too detailed with this. So I'm assuming we're going to come back to this, and this is going to be part of Marnes' backstory.
And then someone else gets punched in the face, and more fake ice, I'm sure, is going to be used. We have Juliette looking for the hard drive, and all personal effects go down to recycling. And so they also have a discussion about why he thinks the mayor was killed. And I like how she does this. She's like, listen, whenever in mechanical something doesn't work or goes down, we always have a theory as to why. And she's like trying to figure out, okay, why do you think the mayor was killed? And, this mirrors probably her own thoughts on why George was killed and her trying to find out his killer.
Yeah, she's trying to like work on facts and stuff like that, not like conjecture, which is clearly what Marnes is doing, just trying to punch his way to the truth.
Oh, well, Marnes is a longtime deputy, goes by his gut, Tom. And sometimes your gut says punch that guy and punch that guy and also send that person out for cleaning. And you're wrong a couple of times, Tom. You're probably wrong 90% of the time. But that 10% of the time, that's what it's all worth it. Anyway,
listen, I'll put 90% of people in jail just so those 10% can't go free.
Yes.
There's a quote there.
Yes, yes, that my platform. Yes, Tom, speaking my language, man. Oh no! All right, we're gonna get letters. Speaking of letters, there's a lot of shotgun talk. She's like, listen, a shotgun is not always the best solution for everything. Strong disagree. Julian, strong disagree on Julian's side, just so everyone's clear. But I don't think I caught this on this first watch. It would be weird if I got it on the first watch and not on the second watch. But I caught it on the second watch. There is a lot of like telegraphing of Marnes killing himself. And because she sees how like upset he is. And she's almost like, listen, a shotgun's not going to solve your problems. And then you have this also mirrored where he's hanging the punching bag. He like moves the chair, he hangs a rope, and you're like, oh no, he's going to hang himself. But instead, it's just Marnes getting in that body work, working the cardio, working the body. I mean, punching bag Marnes, they call him. It's just, I don't know. I thought it was interesting that they're like, hey, this guy's so sad he's going to kill himself. Psych!
Yeah, I mean, I think they even do that when he's like holding the bottle over the railing.
Yep.
You think,
is he gonna jump?
He gonna jump? Yeah. So I'm with you. I guess I took it as Juliette just saying like, hey, you got to cut back on like being so violent because of all like the punching he did earlier in the day, and not trying to use a shotgun for more violence. I didn't necessarily think about the potential suicide attempts, but yeah, I'm with you. They definitely.
She obviously doesn't know his nickname, Shotgun Marnes, they call him. So I don't really. I mean. If she had heard anything about Marnes, any one of his dozens of nicknames, she'd know that violence is the answer, Marnes, they call him on levels 37 through 41 and part of 42.
Yeah, I think she needs to read that syndrome poster or whatever again.
Yes, that's exactly right. He's like, I haven't even done 5 yet, all right? Don't read the poster to me. Don't read poster Marnes. You should know that. Anyways, all right. Young Juliette, we have this flashback once again. Don't care. Young Juliette runs to Mechanical to solve her problems. Tom, take it away.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so she leaves her horse toy behind, so she's kind of like literally letting go of her past. She then runs to Martha, who we can find out has been there and been working in this
toaster shop.
I don't know. Yeah, fix-it toaster shop for forever. But I like this establishing how they met and kind of how Martha took her under the wing and kind of pushed her into that scavenge team. And I think in like the next scene, we then get the dad showing up a little bit later and then kind of asking like if she's happy, and if she's happy, okay, she should stay here. So again, like it's an odd relationship. It's very cold. There's no like I love you, and she walks out of this scene from the dad. So I don't know quite what to make of this, but I'm sure we're gonna get more.
Sure. I'll be interested to see where that relationship goes. Just no more flashbacks. Show them working it out as Rebecca Ferguson and I'm going to say his name's Glenn Powell. Is that the actor's name?
Glenn or Ian Glenn? Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Powell. Anyways, we have some looking through Holston stuff and recycling. We have then an important scene, I think, and I mentioned it earlier, is Sims and Marnes, so Common and Marnes talking, and they've clearly, once again, have a history, they have a relationship, and they were apparently working together in order to get Billings as the next sheriff, right? That's how you took this?
Yeah, and I'm interested to know like how far that thread goes. Is it just, okay, when Holston was gone, they had like Marnes had presented all these different options that were coming from Sims and Judicial and like who could be the next sheriff. But I don't know if it was like collusion, like they were colluding to put Billings in place or not. I don't know what that relationship is quite yet. But clearly at this point, Marnes is trying to, he sees that Juliette can help him potentially solve this murder and doesn't want to push the Judicial guy through yet. Right.
So earlier, I think after Holston is gone, Marnes makes the comment to the mayor, hey, you could do worse than Billings. He's not a bad pick. And so that's like his soft push. And so now we're finding out he is very much involved in trying to get Billings in play. But now that he has spent some time with Juliette, he discovered that she can turn a mean wrench and looks great in the uniform and is just out there punching people in the face. Actually, wait, no, he's the one punching people in the face. Anyways, he's had the heart-to-heart with her and realizes she wants to find these killers as much as he does. now he's kind of backing off on this. And I thought it was interesting how like Common played this, or at least his character played this. I didn't like, there's a soft push from him where he's like, hey, well, the judge really wants this. Marnes comes back with, well, I don't work for the judge. Like, I don't know where I don't think anything on Common's side is super nefarious, if that makes sense. I feel like
the judicial, everything we've seen from judicial is just dudes like wearing black and sidling in corners and like staring at people. So it makes
raising
it
their
seem
children well. Yeah.
It makes
bad
it seem
guys,
like
they call them.
it makes it seem like they're kind of the menacing figures, but again, we haven't gotten anything from their perspective. But everything that we've gotten from Sims and Common here has been very like straight and like well thought out, and like he's not like trying to push too heavy, but he's just trying to play his hand for this judge, which again, I'm sure we'll meet.
Right. So, speaking of meeting people, we go from that conversation to Lucas, the guy in the cafeteria. Tom, what's this guy's deal? I asked you earlier and you didn't answer me. What's this guy's deal? What's going to happen here?
I don't know where they're going to go. He does make a mention, which I think Martha does, or somebody else calls it out, of Juliette's name and like the origin of it being from the play. I thought that's interesting. So I don't know. Maybe is he the Romeo to her Juliette?
Ooh, I didn't even realize that was the play they were referring to. So now I'm super confused. I don't know. I don't know what his jam is. I don't know what their we'll get to it, but they didn't give us enough in either of these episodes, I feel, in order to really conjecture. I'm interested in a world that all of these people grew up in, right? We're supposed to be 140 years in. And he's like, oh, did I just say something that could get me arrested? And she's like, I don't know. And I understand it's supposed to be like, oh, she just became sheriff, so she doesn't know necessarily all the rules. But it doesn't feel like any of these people know the rules. Like, what's a relic? What's not a relic? What'll get me arrested? What won't get me arrested? Like, unless this is supposed to show that Lucas is not of the silo, did Lucas, like, sneak in from, I don't know, the down deep from the volcano? Is Lucas a volcano person? That's my question, ultimately.
I don't think Lucas is a volcano person.
Tom, here and now, yes or no, is Lucas a volcano person? Did he come from the volcano that the silo's built in? Yes or no?
No, he did not order the code red.
He did not order the code red. I bet Lucas can't handle the truth, he is a volcano person. I bet Juliette can't handle the truth that the silo is built on a volcano and soon will be shot into space. Anyways, Martha and Juliette talk via radio, and this is her, like, there's a moment where Marnes is listening in, and she's like, I think I found an ally. And so you see a softening of Marnes. You're like, oh, great. Marnes is on her side. She's got an ally. And at the same time, Toaster Shop is working on the camcorder, right?
Yeah, she's making progress. Something's lighting up on it. And I think she even mentions to Juliette, like, hey, we have something down here that like needs your review or something else. So I appreciate that they're being cautious while talking on the radio, knowing that other people can be listening in. But I'm excited to see what's on this camcorder. I'm assuming it's going to be, like, it's got a screen, right? So it's going to be video of something, right? Like, is it George taking videos of himself, like documenting things? Is it more video of outside?
It is intimate photos of George taking video of himself.
Dancing.
And everyone's going to be real surprised. And let's just say the censorship at Apple is going to be like, listen, we're going to need to blur almost all of this if you're going to show it on a television show. And then they're like, no, we're streaming. That doesn't matter. And they're like, well, when we get bought by HBO, I know the censors are going to have an issue. So
a field day.
Anyways, let's go to Marnes being attacked.
My first inclination when he gets attacked, because he walks into the room and it's just dark and he's going to get attacked, I went straight to the other guys where Will Ferrell's like hiding in the corner and he's like, 1, 2, 3, attack, and then just runs at him.
The Other Guys is a great movie. We should do The Other Guys sometime, Tom, during a break. Anyways, Marnes, never been attacked in the dark, is his other nickname. Finally gets attacked in the dark. We have a struggle, and then eventually he's held at gunpoint via shotgun that was not locked in the gun safe, which is not a great move by Marnes. We don't recognize this man that's holding the shotgun, because you do get a pretty good shot of him, right?
Yeah, they stop right on him. My initial impression was like, okay, this is Lucas. This is the guy that she just ran into.
Volcano person Lucas, yes.
He's just like, he's waiting by the screen to see when Martin's going to go back to his room, but clearly it's not. So we're getting two brand new characters here that are seemingly going to play much, much bigger roles that we don't have really anything to talk through yet.
Right. I didn't appreciate the way they cut this. Like, you should give some conclusion to this scene. Him just being held at gunpoint didn't really help me.
There's no way this guy wants him dead, is my assumption. Because, like, he runs in and tries to, like, tackle him when he already had opened the gun safe and had the shotgun. If he really wanted to kill him here, he could have just killed him immediately. So, and I don't think even now pointing the shotgun at him, he wants to use it. Because obviously that's going to be very loud and probably suspicious. So my assumption is there's more to go with that. It's not just kind of like an attempted murder.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the issue is Marnes' nickname being Marnes can't be killed by a shotgun probably gives this guy pause, because he's like, oh no, this is a shotgun, and Marnes can't be killed by a shotgun, can't be killed by a shotgun. So that's probably what the guy's thinking about,
okay,
but
probably.
I don't know. All of this is inconsequential because old Juliette can't stop trying to fix things that are clanging, opens up the air vent, which we all conjectured about, and it is not the hard drive, but it is the soft drive, and by that I mean it's George's file.
Yeah. And I tried to like pause and see if there's anything pertinent.
Oh, Tom,
on...
I knew you would, and I was so ready for this. Tom, tell me what was on the sheet of paper as you paused it. I'm going to tell you didn't get nothing, because I did too. I tried to be Tom for a moment.
Look at you sleuthing it. But, there's not really much on this. She kind of gives a look like there is something that she finds, but it's really just the picture of him. And the way she kind of I like the idea that he does the same, Holston does the same like string trick of it being like hidden down the air vent, and then she has to pull it up. I thought that was cool. The idea of him probably knowing that she wants to fix things and making that little clanking noise, kind of like, okay, it's a great clue or whatever for Holston to leave. But the way she puts like that bag down, I don't feel like there was anything else in it, so I don't think the hard drive is there. So she doesn't, I agree. I think have it yet.
I don't think she has the hard drive. I thought two things. I thought maybe the flowers are a reason to turn up the AC or turn up the air, which will cause the thing to clank, that will lead her to the air vent. I had that thought as to, the biggest mystery to me is the flowers. Those will always be the central mystery of my life. The other thing I think is as she looks at the file, she finds out that George had a family, a wife and kids, and she's super upset at him because he never told her that he was living two lives and had another family, and George is a bad guy. That's what I'm
he lives in the other silo. He went through the tunnel, and he went to the other silo, Silo 3, and that's where he had another family.
Yep. And he's like, baby, I only, they don't mean anything to me. Those are just my wife and kids. Yeah. George, real bad guy is my, and that's his nickname, George, real bad guy. All right, I'm interested. I love murders. Wait, let me rephrase. I love shows where you have to figure out who's murdering who. Tom, do you have a main suspect? Do you have someone that is pulling the strings? Do you think we've met the person pulling the strings and causing the murders?
No, that's what I think is kind of fun about this show. Like, it's a murder mystery, but I feel like the mystery is more about like what is going on with the silo. Like, that's where the focus of all these questions are. Like, the characters need something to try to find, but us as an audience are trying to understand how the silo works, who are these players, and they're giving us a little bit more every episode, which I very much like. But yeah, I don't have any sort of early guesses at this point.
When do you think we're going to meet Judicial, or the Judge Beddoes?
I would say, I think the next episode... Right? I think the next episode is called Hannah, which I think is Juliette's mom. So I'm imagining we're going to get a little bit more background maybe there. But I would like to get Judicial sooner than later for sure. Because, they make a big deal about this judge and what her role is going to be. And what is her power versus the mayor.
Sure. Sure. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Dr. Dad is slowly murdering everyone because he likes to murder people and then revive them, and that gives him the doctor complex that he's looking for. So Jorah Mormont, once again, killing everyone. So
he'll be friend zoned somehow.
Yep, that's my official take. We appreciate all of you for joining us. If we missed something or you have questions or comments, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom has all the other social stuff. He does not give me the password, although he did give me recently access and let me run our OnlyFans account, which I'm not sure what kind of social media that is, but I'm supposed to be on there once a day, he said, doing something. I haven't really read the directions all the way, but you can apparently reach me there. I'm assuming I'll be DMing people. I don't really know. Not sure.
Yeah, that's what the Lost Camcorder of Team Binge. That's just a bunch of Julian videos.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast. Again, we're a little bit behind on the show. I think we should catch up by the time the finale gets out there, so we're not theory crafting a whole lot online. If you do want to theory craft and reach out to us, please do via either email or social, but just keep it to the first 4 episodes. So again, fun time. I very much like the show. I think we even found out today that the show is going to be renewed for a 2nd season. So we always love to hear that, and can't wait for more.
Yep, we lost Cormac McCarthy, but we gained season 2 of Silo. So the universe is really balancing itself out. If you've enjoyed us, we do ask if you would like to leave something nice to say. You can rate and review us at Apple Podcasts. And for Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I have been Tom. Till next time, everybody.